Alright, people, review of the week time. So, crazy, it's a weird one, right? Because there's not a crazy amount that really happened over the last week. We kind of had the Usyk Dubois fight last weekend, and that was kind of peak action for this month, wasn't it, really? And since then, there's been a bit of fallout from it, not a great deal, but it's been kind of quiet this week, hasn't it, really? It really has. Now, there has been fights on. Obviously, I seen Clarissa Shields. Well, I didn't see the fight, but Clarissa Shields won last night. I think it was at light heavyweight. Could be wrong on that one. I haven't really paid too much interest into that one, that particular fight card. I did see, I only looked at some highlights of it, but Xander Zayas picked up his first world title. That's the WBO 154-pound title. He's only 22 years old. I remember he turned pro at about 17 or so, thereabouts. So he was quite young, very young, turning pro. But you could see there was talent in him. You could see even going back a couple of years ago, there was talent in him. That's his 22nd professional fight. He won it on a 12-round unanimous points decision over Jorge Garcia Perez. That belt, that WBO title, was vacated by Sebastian Fondor. He was obviously mandatory for it. So he's another very interesting addition to the 154-pound division in terms of the champions there. That division right now is just looking stacked as all hell. I mean, it really is. You got Fondora, you got Murtazaliev, I think is a background Murtazaliev. I was going to say Tim Tszyu, but I don't think there's much coming back from that. You have also the likes of, you've got Xander Zayas there. I'm just trying to think now off the top of my head, because there is a lot more people. Obviously, you got Boots, you've got Virgil Ortiz, you obviously have Boacek. You got a good few there. You got to go. Terence Crawford is still listed on BoxRec as the number one. Israel Madrimov, Erickson Lubin is up there high as his key term, and I don't think either of them. Lubin's only 29 years old. Jeez, I thought he was older than that. I actually thought he was older than that. He's been around for ages, Erickson Lubin. So it's not a bad division at all, really. It's a pretty good division. In terms of the card that was on over in the UK down in Bournemouth last night, that was a bit of it was alright. It was an okay card. I did see Amir Abdubaker versus Carl Fail. What a name, Mr. Fail. In fairness, he actually performed very well. He really did. Watch that fight. What was on? That was one of the kickoff fights. That was just before Alois Jr. fought Elizaro. We'll talk about that now in a sec. In terms of the undercard, there wasn't really anything, or the prelims anyway, there wasn't really anything that jumped out at me. The main one that jumped out at me, apart from the main event, was Alois Jr. Elizaro. I did watch that fight. It was not put it like this, Alois Jr. last time out, I was very impressed. He fought up in that card in Scotland. I think that was Josh Taylor versus Eko Usman. Pretty sure it was that card. And he looked good. He looked really good in that fight. He knocked the guy out. I can't remember the guy's name now, in a couple of rounds. And there was improvements there. Now, Elizaro, I remember the first time I seen Elizaro, it was when he fought Dex Spellman. Now, I might have seen him before because I think he won that boxer event. Although, was it a boxer event or was it a prize fight? Yeah, it was Ben Shalom. Obviously, boxer was essentially prize fight, or those boxer tournaments. They were called Ultimate Boxer at one stage. Now, he fought Dex Spellman off the back of winning that. And I have to say, now, having seen Dex Spellman was a light heavyweight. He fought Anthony Yard, I know that. He fought some other people. He was never that good. I think he fought Lyndon Arthur as well. I think he went the distance with Lyndon Arthur at light heavyweight years ago. Never that good was Dex Spellman. No business being up a cruiserweight. And honestly, he didn't win the fight, but he really did give Elizaro hell in that fight. So when I seen that, I was like, oh, that doesn't bode well for your future endeavours. And obviously he got flattened by Jai Opetaia, head taken clean off his shoulders in a round. Stopped then by Chef Clark. And Chef Clark, European level, fair to say, cruiserweight, European fringe, European kind of British level, domestic level cruiserweight. Again, no shame in those two defeats. So it kind of gives you an indication as to where, certainly this fight was going to give us an indication as to where Alois Jr. was at. Well, the scorecards, Victor Loughlin's scorecard, that one in particular is just, I don't even know what word you'd use to describe it. At 98-93, that's not the fight I seen. The 96-94 scorecard, the fact of the matter is that the commentary team, Adam Smith included, felt that Elizaro had done enough to win this fight. it certainly seemed that he did do enough, certainly as the fight progressed, to probably nick a decision. Probably. It really shows the limitations of Alois Jr. I have to say, the only performance from Alois Jr. that's ever remotely impressed me was his previous performance. At the end of the day, that was David Jemison was the guy's name. At the end of the day, you look at some of the fights he's been in, he's fighting absolute no hopers. Obviously, he lost his pro debut, and then just was fed these just cream puffs, really. That's the only fight, his last fight, where he looked somewhat decent, and you could make a strong case that he lost this respective fight. Alois Jr. is a very, very interesting character, to say the least. I remember, he's from South London, right? So I don't know South London well at all, but I remember Hatman was saying on one of his videos, where is it, Pinge in South London, that in terms of South London, that's not really a terrible area, but Alois Jr. was making it out as though it was the Wild Wild West. I never understood people who do that. I remember seeing an interview with a boxer, an Irish boxer, a couple of years ago. Now, I don't live in the area he was from, but I knew the area he was living in. And again, it was something similar. This guy, put it in context, was living in a middle class to upper middle class area, of which there is no roughness in it at all. In fact, people who are from that area, you're like, oh, he's a posh boy, or here comes the posh kids. And he was trying to make it was like the Wild West. I was like, I know that area. I wouldn't want to live there, but I know it. And I'm like, rough, really? Okay, that's a new one. So I never understood people who do that, I come from, real hard, environment. You wouldn't like to live where I lived. Well, I wouldn't like to live where this guy lived because, well, they're twats, simple as the people who are there. But I never understood it. And Alois Jr. seems to be kind of one of them. It's just, I don't get him. I don't think his ceiling is massively high. If you put him in there next with a Chef Clark, if you put him in there next with a Vidal Riley, an Isaac Chamberlain, I think they'd all beat him. I really do. I think they beat him probably soundly. I mean, Elizarro, you could make the argument, won this fight. So there was that. Ryan Gardner, Reece Bellotti, that was a great fight. Really, really entertaining fight. Reece Bellotti getting stopped in the final round. I can't really argue with the stoppage, to be honest with you. I really can't. Ryan Gardner, I had him as favourite going in. Bellotti, he's been stopped a few times, but he's been on such a good path of wins over the last couple of years. I think it was, he lost to Ray Ford. Obviously, that was in Fight Camp a couple of years ago. We know Ray Ford's gone on to do, a lot of good things in the sport. So there's no shame in that. And prior to that, he lost to Jordan Gill. Lost the European title fight over in Italy. That's when Matchroom were actually doing some shows in, continental Europe. They were doing some in Italy, they were doing some in Spain. And then he just seemed to just go on a run of just getting wins. Just getting wins and just pulling them out of the bag. And it's been a good kind of Indian summer to his career, but it inevitably was going to come to an end, and it did, at the hands of Ryan Gardner. So that was the weekend's action in a nutshell. So we get into some of the boxing news. Now, I am going to talk about Anthony Joshua, potentially what might be happening there. I'm going to talk about, obviously, Usyk versus Parker being ordered, but it doesn't look like we're going to get that fight. But I want to start with this. This is somewhat worrying, and I'm just going to read it, right? So, you may remember a couple of weeks ago, we seen Galalify versus Francesco Rodriguez, and Francesco Rodriguez from the opening bell was on Yafai like, a bad smell, and he really put a beating on Galalify. He dropped him officially once, but he was down in, I think, round 7 as well. It wasn't called a knockdown, but it was a knockdown. And yeah, just put a beating on Yafai. Well, subsequently, he was reported to have had an adverse analytical finding, is the, I think, words they use, and you're thinking, oh God, no contest that, what's going to happen with this guy, he's probably going to get a ban, etc, etc. Well, the WBC have now overturned his win, rightly so, to a no contest, reinstated Yafai as interim champion, but they've ordered an immediate rematch, right? Because he tested positive for heptamio, I think it's how you say that, after the fight. They have ruled, in their infinite wisdom, the WBC, that he accidentally ingested the banned substance, as he previously reported the use of an over-the-counter energy boost, which he was unaware included. The WBC have made a request that the British Boxing Board of Control officially recognise their decision to rule the fight a no contest and place Rodriguez under a 12-month probation period with random testing. That's not a suspension, that's a probation period. I shouldn't be surprised it's the WBC, but what is the point? Like, when you think about it like this, right? Canelo Alvarez, clenbuterol. Was it clenbuterol? What was it again? It was the tainted beef a couple of years ago, many years ago now, 6-7 years ago now. Gave him a media pass. When Conor Ben was saying it was contaminated eggs or something like that, I think the WBC said, no, we don't think it's that, we think it's this. Okay, good. You get what I mean. You're seeing a pattern here. These are supposed to be the clean boxing program. As is often the case with Sullivan, everything he says is just for show. You know, we're all for clean boxing. Okay, guys just failed a test for whatever. There's a logical explanation, and we're not going to do anything really about it. You can overturn the fight. So officially Galal Yafai hasn't lost. Okay, fair enough. Officially now he's not lost. But he took a hell of a beating. He's an aging fighter. And a beating like that, what's it going to do? Like, you know, I don't, even a rematch, if he's clean this time around, what good is that going to do when the fighter has already taken a Hail Mary beating? He's never going to be able to come back from that, I would imagine. He could prove me wrong, but I don't think he will. And yeah, I just think that's ridiculous from the WBC. I really do. At the end of the day, and I think it was the WBA. It was the WBA when Lucas Brown. And again, you do kind of have to ask questions of Lucas Brown, because I always felt that in this occasion he may have been hard done by, but then he failed again the same year and his performances waned, so you do kind of ask the question. But when Lucas Brown fought Ruslan Shagayev back in 2016, it was a really good fight. If you've never seen that, it's a good fight. That happened in Chechnya. No, that's not where Shagayev is from. I think he's from Uzbekistan originally, but his adoptive home was Chechnya. He was very good, it still is, I think, very good friends with the president of there. Now, he knocked out, and if you go and watch that fight, it's dodgy. You know, it's very dodgy, because Shagayev hurts Brown, and I think it's round 6, and they don't ring the bell after 3 minutes. They let that round carry on. And obviously, it carries on for an extra 30 seconds. Shagayev can't get rid of him. Then he starts gassing in the next round, and they end that round with a minute left. As soon as it got troublesome for Shagayev, they ring that bell quick with a minute to go. So it's a real dodgy fight. But he tested positive for clenbuterol, and I think he was saying that, it was tainted or something like that. The WBA were don't care, watch what you eat. And I tend to concur with that. At the end of the day, you should have people looking at this stuff. You should know what goes into it. You should keep an eye on what basically you're ingesting. So I think the WBC in this situation, they've really done it. I don't like it, but hey, there you go. What else is there to talk about? Oh yeah, Ryan Garcia and Rolly Romero are in advanced talks for a rematch that could take place as early as December, sources tell Ring Magazine. Biggest surprises that I've seen this year probably was the fact that Ryan Garcia lost to Rolly Romero, and lost handily, because as many of you will know, I've never been impressed with Rolly. This is a guy who went life and death with officially he's about 40, but he looks way older. He looks about a decade and a half older, right? And that was Ismael Barrosa. And he was down in that fight. He didn't look good. He was soundly beaten by Pitbull Cruz. And I just never really saw an impressive fighter in Rolly Romero. Never did. So for him to go in there against Ryan Garcia and do that, I was just shocked. It does have me wondering, Ryan Garcia, now that he's a bit more normal, for want of a better word, has that taken away from him? Maybe he needs the anarchy around him going into this rematch, potentially. Lennox Lewis believes Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua owe the British public a super fight. I tend to concur with Lennox Lewis on that one. I agree with Lennox Lewis on most things. Lennox Lewis says that he feels that they owed him that fight. I think they probably do at this stage. Although there was an article in the Metro, which I already talked about in a separate video, where Anthony Joshua was talking about or hinting at retirement even this year, saying that 12 years ago, he signed with Matchroom, and 12 years later, he's going to throw his last punch with Matchroom, which would indicate that this next fight is potentially going to be his last fight. Now, we're hearing a lot of whispers, a lot of rumours that as much as we want it to be Tyson Fury, it may likely be Jake Paul. Now, I can't excuse that. I know it's a cash grab. I know that. I know it's a way to line your pockets before you bow out. I get all that. But still, people, Jake flipping Paul against Anthony Joshua, as far as I'm concerned, the only fight for Jake Paul that makes sense, and it would do good numbers, is the Fury rematch, a Tommy Fury rematch, of course. Because at the end of the day, like, he's probably going to win that fight now, because Fury is looking absolutely terrible, even worse than he normally looks. He's inactive. At least Jake Paul is being active. There you go. You'd make a killing. You can get the win back, and then so on and so forth. Fighting Anthony Joshua, and bear in mind, Tommy Fury can't punch. He's not that physically imposing, even for a cruiserweight, because he was trying to do light heavyweight. He's just pumped up full weights. Jake Paul's the naturally bigger of the two, I think, in general. So it's a winnable fight. Make a lot of money. Do it on Netflix. There you go. Happy days. Instead, you're thinking of fighting Anthony Joshua, who is a 6'5", 250-pound man, who's one of the biggest punchers in the heavyweight division and one of the best fighters of this last decade in that division, and he will knock you out with one hand tied behind his back. I just don't. And the problem is, right, if Anthony Joshua carries him, Anthony Joshua's going to get massively critiqued for that. You'll have people claiming, oh, this is proof that all his fights are fixed now. And I think it just makes the sport look bad. You know, the Tyson fight, the Mike Tyson fight made it all look, that was just, I want to forget about that. I want to pretend that like that never happened, but it flipping did. So yeah, if AJ is looking to bow out, I think the best way to bow out is maybe do 2 fights with Tyson Fury. 2 fights with Fury, there you go. It's a big money fight for Fury, but I think, and the weirdest thing, I think Fury wins against Anthony Joshua pretty handily now at this point. But again, he still just wants to mention Alexander Usyk. I mean, there's always risk. It's heavyweight boxing at the end of the day. Anything can happen. But I think at this point, I'd make him firm favourite over Anthony Joshua. And you would think Fury would want to be able to say, you know, oh, well, I was the best at this era, you know, Anthony Joshua couldn't get close to me. Look what happened when we fought. You think he'd want to at least do that so we can keep face on that. But no, apparently not. Apparently not. This week, the WBO ordered mandatory challenger and interim champion Joseph Parker to face Alexander Usyk. So parties have 30 days to negotiate, or else purse bids will be called. I suspect that title is going to get vacated very soon by Alexander Usyk because the Ring Magazine, Riyadh Season and Sella not interested in making the Parker Usyk fight. I really truthfully don't know why. It's a strange one to me because I think it's a good fight. Both guys, well, all of Alexander Usyk's last couple of fights have been in Saudi Arabia or have had Riyadh Season associated with them, if you know what I mean, like even the last fight. So I think that's a massive strange one. I think that why not do that fight? It's a good fight. Do it on a card maybe early next year. The problem for Parker is inactivity. Definitely inactivity because he's been out of the ring a lot over the last year or so. He's only fought once last year and once this year. Might not fight again before the end of the year this year, who knows. So I don't like that for Joseph Parker, but what does he do now? Because does that mean now he's going to be in the wilderness? Does that mean that he's going to get frozen out? If he picks up a title, okay, that's not too bad, but like, I don't know. I don't get it. By Riyadh Season Sella, I just hope that they don't end up doing the Fury Trilogy fight, because I will be critiquing Alexander Usyk for that, because there's different fights that could be made, especially if you're near the end of your career, which is maybe his last fight. Why are you recycling Fury a third time? And why in God's name are you giving him a shot off the back of back-to-back defeats and not having to earn a shot? Parker's earned his shot. There you go. Simple as. That's what I got to say on that one. Dave Allen versus Arslanbek Makhmudov is on. Boxing UK says Dave Allen will face Arslanbek Makhmudov. Official announcement next week, so this coming week. Well, this is going out on a Monday, so this week. 6'5" Makhmudov will present a stern test for the White Rhino, who was riding high after the KO of Johnny Fisher. Well, Arslanbek Makhmudov is certainly not Johnny Fisher, but Arslanbek Makhmudov, he was a bit of an enigma as such. We looked at him when he was undefeated, and he was highly ranked by the WBC, and you saw him as a justifiable contender. Big puncher, very imposing, very physically imposing man. But then Adji Kabayel exposed all the flaws, and there are many. Although he has tremendous punching power, He is as slow as molasses. He clearly doesn't like it to the body. Dave Allen's a pretty good body puncher. And I wonder, there's a lot to like about that fight. Obviously, Arslanbek Makhmudov is significantly better than Johnny Fisher, who apparently is split with Mark Tibbs. I like this fight. I don't know who I'd make favourite because I look at this as a real 50-50 fight, you know. I look at someone like Fraser Clark and I think, alright, styles make fights, but could you beat Arslanbek Makhmudov? Maybe. Maybe it might. Maybe. Depends. Well, he had no problem with Dave Allen. It's an interesting fight. It's a very interesting fight. It's a very tough fight. It's a bit of a fight that, for me, I kind of look at and think, does it make that much sense? Like, why don't we just do that? I know they ordered Jamie TKV versus Fraser Clark for the British title, but why can't you just lobby to get Dave Allen for the British title? Or to me, this just seems like a kind of, I don't want to say it's a bad fight. I'm sure it'll turn out to be a very, very fun fight, but like, it's just a bit random. Do you not think just like a random opponent like Arslanbek Makhmudov, a very tough opponent too as well, very tough. We'll end it with this. Lewis Crooker will rematch Paddy Donovan for the vacant IBF 147-pound title September the 13th, Windsor Park Stadium in Belfast. I've been to Windsor Park Stadium. It's lovely. It's very small in comparison for a national stadium to, like, say, Wembley or, you know, the Principality Stadium, etc. They obviously fought in March. Very controversial ending to that fight. Paddy Donovan was beating the living crap out of Lewis Crooker, but somehow ended up losing because he got himself disqualified. They will, I would no doubt, have a different referee this time around. They've already announced some of the fights for the undercard. Ishmael Davis, who will have a proper training camp this time, not a short notice job, against Kevin and Jago. That'll be actually a fun fight, 154 pounds. Ishmael Davis is a good fighter. Probably make him favourite going into that fight. Tyrone McKenna versus Dylan Moran rematch. If you haven't seen their first fight, I'd go and watch it. It's on ProBox TV. It was, honestly, it was a fun 2 rounds. It was a big shootout. Tyrone McKenna, not a noted puncher, but Dylan Moran made him look like a prime flipping Adonis Stevenson in there. He really did. It was crazy. Dylan Moran has absolutely no chin. He's absolutely no chin. So that'll be and he hasn't fought since the McKenna knockout last year. That was just before Christmas last year. Honestly, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. The funniest thing about that fight is that the first knockdown, Moran was out of it, and the referee let it carry on. The guy couldn't even stand. The referee didn't know what to do, whether should I stop it or let it go. And then the second knockdown, it was similar, and this time he did. And the commentary team, it was obviously Paulie and Chris Algieri, and they were absolutely just there. It's actually, I would say go and watch it, because it's just, even for the commentary, because they clearly didn't give a you know what, because it was quite an obscure show, and they just went in. It was hilarious. But that was a fun fight. If it's anything like the first fight, that'll be fun. So that's the undercard. They'll announce more fights, no doubt, but that's actually a decent show. I might go to that one myself, because I'm thinking of going home that weekend to Dublin. Belfast is an hour and 10-minute drive for me, so it's not far. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's pretty much it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on everything I talked about here. As always, if you could, hit the like button, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. Until next time, people, I will leave it there. Have a great Monday, have a great week, all that good stuff. We are riding high. We're doing good things, and let's keep it going. Till next time.